very pleased to meet you, Peter. It's really delightful for me to be here with you.
I'm very, very happy to be here.
Thank you. My first question would be, of course, how did you meet Freddie Mercury? I know it was in a Royal Ballet, but that's all I know. So you have to tell me the whole story, please.
Well, I was working for the Royal Ballet, working in the running wardrobe, looking after the costumes that were in use at the time. The Royal Ballet put on a special charity gala. Every year they did one. And what they did, because it just worked out very well, one of the governors of the Royal Ballet was also the managing director of EMI Records, where Queen had a contract. And so the dancers asked if it was possible that maybe they could get Freddie Mercury to sing with them, perform with them. So Sir Joseph asked if Freddie would do it. And of course, Freddie always believed he had amazing balletic moves. He could have been a dancer. He agreed, of course. Royal Ballet, yes, I'll go with them. He then found out that he basically had 2 left feet, but that's another thing. He sang live vocals backing track for Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Mm-hmm. And he also did Bohemian Rhapsody, but all the time being dancing with, being manipulated by and thrown around by the dancers. I met him at the party afterwards, and I just said I thought it was stunning, the mix of his voice, Queen music, and the Royal Ballet. It just sort of was made in heaven. He said, well, no, thank you very, very much. I mean, I've seen you at the Opera House when I've come for rehearsals. What do you do? So I explained the job, just looking after the costumes, make sure they're clean, ready, put them on the dancers, and off they go. And that was the end of the conversation. A week later, someone from Queen organisation rang up my boss to ask if I would be available to do a 6-week tour with Queen, looking after their stage costumes. I accepted after a lot of thought, because if you think you're giving up a lifetime job with a pension, with everything, for a 6-week tour with a rock band whose names I didn't know, nothing. I mean, when I started work in 1979, I knew 7 Seas of Rye, Killer Queen, and Bohemian Rhapsody. That was it. That was the extent of my knowledge of Queen. I didn't know how many were in the band. I didn't know their names. Nothing. Well, Freddie Mercury, of course, everybody knew. I mean, I'd actually seen him years before in the Rainbow Room in Bieber back in the early 70s, because I was there having tea and Freddie Mercury walked in having tea. So that was the start. That was the start of my 12 years.
So you, when I saw your website, I saw that you were many things for Freddie Mercury. So let's describe it like an assistant in the end?
Well,
or?
Yeah. I mean, after 1 year of just looking after the costumes for the whole band, Freddie decided he was going to spend some time out of England. He was going to do 2 years away because he was fed up with the government taking 90% of his money. And the only way he could stop that was by not living there. So, but it wasn't such a hard thing because they were touring, they were recording, so it was easy to be out of the country. But he then asked, would I look after him? Would I take care of him? Would I become his personal assistant? So that's what happened. I then started working for Freddie. the term personal assistant, what does it mean? You look at other personal assistants who work from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Monday to Friday. My job was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. It really was to take care of him, to make sure he got where he had to go to on time, to make sure he looked presentable, cook food, buy artwork, just
anything
and everything.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell me the personality of Freddie Mercury? He was like open person, very straight person to everybody, or
there were two
Freddie
real
Mercury's.
Freddie Mercury, both as real as the other. There's the Freddie Mercury that the whole world knows, who can have the whole world in the palm of his hand in Live Aid, who is the biggest showman, the most extrovert performer. There's also, just as real, the quiet person who would get up in the morning, every morning, 9 o'clock, didn't matter what time he went to bed, he would always get up at 9, come downstairs and sit and have his breakfast, and then maybe go into the garden, play with his cats or feed his fish, just doing normal, quiet things. That was an incredibly shy, incredibly self-conscious person. Mm-hmm. That is the total opposite of what the world knows. As you know, he'd be in the garden, he could wear a tracksuit, but different colours, whatever, wear his slippers, because he was at home. Mm-hmm. But the minute he went outside the gate, he would be in sunglasses, leather jacket, t-shirt, jeans, trainers. He would become what the world expected him to be. Right. Someone actually asked me years ago now to describe Freddie in one word. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely impossible. Mm-hmm. But my reply was that he was the kindest, most generous, loyal friend anybody could wish to have. Because he prized loyalty. Trust was one of the most important things in his life. Because he trusted the people around him to just be aware, not talk about him to the whole world, not, you know, and trust was the big thing with him.
He got also a lot of trust from her Mary Austin.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think.
Well, you see, this.
Yeah.
You look at that relationship and how it adapted. Mm-hmm. It wasn't sort of massive change, but it adapted as Freddie adapted to his lifestyle. So his relationship with Mary adapted. They'd committed themselves to each other early in the 70s. Just because his lifestyle changed did not mean he wanted to lose Mary.
Sure.
And she stayed through right to the end. She was always there, taking care of his back.
Lovely. It's today, Freddie would have like 72 years.
72 years old.
That's crazy,
today.
Isn't it? That's pretty crazy.
You see, with his illness, people were so surprised that he accepted it as he did. I mean, he was 41 when he knew he had AIDS. He was 41 when he knew he was going to die. But all his life he'd always said he never wanted to be an old man. He never wanted to become an old man. And with the disease, it took that away. He knew he would never be an old man. I cannot imagine what he would be like now.
Me neither.
I cannot imagine a grumpy old man, Freddie Mercury. A pensioner.
No way. No, I think that's not his style at all.
No.
But what do you think? How would he celebrate his birthday?
Oh, of course he would.
Like a big party, like
Yes.
black and white party in Munich or
Yeah,
something.
I mean,
when he was
72nd
39,
maybe
or...
not, but the 70th I'm sure he would have done.
Yeah.
You know, have all the wheelchairs
yeah,
together.
Yeah. Dancing on it or
Yes,
singing together.
No, I mean, of course he would. Freddie enjoyed life. He really enjoyed his life. He didn't know what the end would be, but from the time I knew him, he always said that life was too short to waste even a minute. Whether you live till you're 45 or whether you live till you're 85, it is still too short.
Now let's go to the movie, which is Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
And I would like to know how looked the cooperation with the producer of the movie, and how did you get to it? What did they want to know from you about Freddie and stuff around?
Well, I've sort of been involved with this project right from the very, very beginning, which was 15 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was when the idea was first floated. And it was going to be produced by Robert De Niro's company, film company, Tribeca. After a few years, he then dropped out. And 9 years ago, Graham King decided that this was his passion project. This was something that he wanted to do for the love of Freddie, for the love of the band. And it still took 8 years because of disagreements with actors, then directors not being available, and you know, because the thing is, it's an incredible industry where people are booked so many years in advance to do something. The original actor went out, they had confirmed a second actor, but then because of the directorial problems, the second actor had to cancel because he was already committed to another film. Eventually everything worked out right, because when they found Bryan Singer, who was the original director, then of course he didn't finish the film, but that's another story. But then they found the actors, they found things, and things came together. And I got a phone call in January last year. Would I please be available to have dinner with the director? Yes, that's fine, yes, yeah. He said he'll come to Prague, no problem. He wants to meet up and talk to me because he thought that I would be able to give him the best idea of what Freddie should be like. Heard nothing for another 4 months, something. Then in the middle of July, I will be in Prague on the 10th of August. You are having dinner with me. That's the message I got.
All right.
Okay.
Original.
Yeah. I said, look, I don't live in Prague, so if I'm having dinner, I need somewhere to stay. No problem. Well, you'll be in the same hotel with me. So I arrived on the 10th. I was shown to the door of my room. You open the door and you couldn't see the other end of the corridor where there was the kitchen, the first door here. Then there was a bathroom, then a dining room, then a big sitting room, and then the bedroom at the end.
A little chateau.
I mean, and that wasn't the best suite, because the director had the best suite. I had the second.
Not bad.
So we went out to dinner, and it was interesting. We were talking and talking. Went back to his suite after the dinner, and we were talking until 2 o'clock in the morning. He says, well, look, I've not learnt enough. I know I'm not going to get enough out of you now. Will you come back with me tomorrow to London? Okay. You know it's 2 o'clock in the morning. What time is your flight? I says, well, what time do you want it to be? I says, well, hang on, what? Well, what time do you want to fly? I can go whenever I want, because he's got his own plane.
Right.
Okay, so I said, look, I have to go back home, pack a bag. How long are we going? Oh, 3 or 4 days. You'll be 3 or 4 days, and we'll just talk, and I'll get my Freddie. So I'll go home, pack a suitcase for 4 days, and I will be back here by about midday, 1 o'clock. He says, okay, fine, that's good. We'll fly out at 4. So we got on the plane, nice little quick hop back to England.
Right.
I get into the hotel, and then that was on the Sunday. Then Monday I was taken to the production office, which was in London, for the film. So the production designers were there, costumes, everything was set up there. And I was talking with every department.
Separately, yeah.
With the actual design, because they couldn't use Garden Lodge, so they had to recreate. So while it isn't exactly Garden Lodge, you could feel it was, because they used the right colours, they used the right sort of things for it. It was very well done. The props, they wanted to know exactly what sort of teacup and saucer Freddie would use, so that they could get those. Costumes were going right back to the early 70s and going through to Live Aid. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Anyway, 3 days went by, 4 days went by, 5 days went by, and nobody was saying anything about me going home. So I arrived there on the 11th, I think it was the 11th of August, and I left in the middle of December.
Very well.
Because my job was to sit in this little black tent called the Big Boys tent, because it's where the director and the producer sat. And then we had the monitors set up. So that's where the director sits and looks to see what the camera is filming, rather than in the old days of sitting behind the camera. And on a few occasions they performed, and he turned around to me and said, "Look, is that really what Freddie would have done?"
Very suspicious man.
Well, no, because he wanted it to be real.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so I said, well, no, it looks fine, but Freddie would actually have shouted, or he would have done, oh, okay, all right, yes, I can see. And then they reshoot it how I described it. That's what I did for 5 months for this film. I was there for 85% of the filming. And you cannot judge sitting watching something being made. Right. You really cannot judge the end product. But with what I saw filmed, I thought there could be a good film here. Then watching the trailers, right, the way the things have been edited and everything together, it's absolutely wonderful. You really can see Freddie. You can feel him.
He moves in, in
because that was also, I had to sort of give him the movements, give him how Freddie would have moved, what his hands would have done, what. The casting is absolutely spot on. They've picked all the right people for this. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing the end product.
Wow, so we do. So if I'm asking you, Rami Malek is the right person for Freddie Mercury, you would say yes?
Yes.
Definitely?
Yes. I mean, there is no other really available Freddie Mercury. Rami suited because he was a good height. He was actually good skin color. His body shape was right.
Also the height?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, Rami is 2 or 3 centimeters shorter than Freddie. But then it made it a lot easier to cast the other band members. Right. Because, you know, 3 of them were almost the same size, you know, with a couple of centimeters between them. And then, of course, you had Brian.
Right. He has like 188 or something. Really high.
And they were able to cast Gwilym, who isn't quite as tall as Brian, but with Rami being that couple of centimeters shorter, it worked perfectly. And Gwilym is, I mean, he is Brian to the T, the way he looks, the way he sounds, everything. I mean, Brian May came to a few days of shooting, and it was absolutely incredible watching the 2 Brians I know, the Brian I knew from 1979, the Brian I know today, and to see them talking, and Brian May was giving him lessons on the guitar, how to play the guitar, and everything. It was so emotional. There's some scenes in it that I had to walk out of when they were filming because it just brought a huge lump to my throat. Like any film, this is not a documentary. This is a film.
Right.
So it is for it's not for the 10 million huge, massive Queen historians. It's for the 300 million people who enjoy a good story and enjoy a good film. There are so many real facts in the film that the Queen fans will recognize. But what will sort of shake them a bit is that it might not be in the same sort of scene that they know it was done in. You cannot put 39 years into 2 hours without concertinaing the timeline. But as I say, there are enough facts that people will think, yes, okay, yeah, I know about, yeah, I remember this. There's enough of the real facts in there.
So you were sitting there for such a long time, so you were watching everything. So
Yeah.
what was the scene that really makes you almost like cry or really?
Can't
like,
tell you.
No.
Because it's not in any of the
right. But there was so many
trailers. There were 2 or 3 scenes. That again, maybe word for word, it isn't exactly how it happened, and where it happened in the film, it didn't happen in real life. But just watching Rami acting and performing those scenes, just as I said, it really brought a lump to my throat. The easiest thing on earth would have been to cry, because that was the Freddie that I remembered. He did things exactly like Freddie would have done.
That's perfect. So great choice. So my last question will be, I'd like to know, what is your favorite song of Queen, if you have one?
My favourite song of Queen, yes, I do have one.
All right,
and it's not one that's sort of generally on the popular list.
Yeah.
It's a song called My Melancholy Blues.
Sounds a little bit jazzy.
It is.
It's from the album Jazz. No, it's not.
Is it jazz or is it News of the World? I'm not sure. But
I'll check it.
The thing is, you know, Queen is all about layered guitars, harmonies, big production.
Right.
This song is Freddie playing the piano, a little bit of drums and a little bit of bass. And Freddie telling the story of how another party's over. And my baby's left me for somebody new. But it's so beautiful.
I'll check it as soon as I get home.
It's a beautiful, beautiful song.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Od 1. listopadu vstoupí do kin hudební legenda. Bohemian Rhapsody.